How I Met God. It was 2023 when I set out to write a handbook for the soul. I'm a lifelong seeker of truth, and this would be the culmination of a lifetime quest to understand my human experience at the deepest level. At the time, I had such a prejudice about God that it was my objective to leave the word God out of the book. In retrospect, that's kind of funny, writing a handbook for the soul and never mentioning God. Quite ridiculous, but that's where I was at in my spiritual journey. In any case, I managed to make my way through writing 24 chapters. All the while, I was inspired by a force greater than myself. It was an experience I was accustomed to since the age of 17. Back in 1984, I started doing something known as automatic writing, after learning this at a spiritual retreat. The messages I downloaded this way were always full of enlightened advice on how to live my life. Through the past 40 years, I've come to trust this source of guidance more than I trust my own intuition. Back to this soul handbook. By the time I reached the 25th chapter, it became clear that a section on heaven was going to be necessary. After all, heaven seems like an essential topic for a handbook of the soul. While writing the book, I relied on a stream of inspiration outside myself. But I didn't know who or what was giving me such great material. Maybe I was just tapping into universally available intelligence. I didn't know. As I finished the chapter on heaven, it became clear that a simple page on God was vital to complete the summary of heaven. Because how could someone write a chapter on heaven without mentioning God? Breaking my oath to not mention God, I reluctantly asked my source for knowledge about God so I could write the final page and be done with the book. That is when my wild ride began, spiritually speaking. I felt that a force outside myself was definitely guiding me through a process. It was a series of instructions on letting go. I was guided into letting go of my hurts, resentments, grievances, and judgments. I was guided to forgive everyone, including myself. I was guided to let go of my expectations about God. After weeks of this intense preparation, God made a very personal introduction. I was meditating with a completely open mind, and suddenly I was immersed in a profound energy that filled my vortex. I was engulfed by a state of pleasance, euphoria, love. Though I'd never experienced anything like it, this was unmistakably the creator of all that is. The energy was alive and pulsating. It communicated to me in such a dynamic way that it was undeniably God, reintroducing themselves to me. I was stupefied in the most lovely of ways. Whoa and wow was a stream of escaping utterance as I absorbed the energetic river of love flowing over and through me. Shook with awe, I did my best to let go so I could flow with this primal surge of loving energy. The room disappeared. Nothing else existed in that moment except me and God. Every question I had was simultaneously answered before I could finish the thought to ask. Each response was not with words, but rather with revelations, emotions, instant understanding. A complete and total explanation wrapped in feelings that were as clear as anything I'd ever known. It was the most magical experience of my life. As the outpouring subsided, I started to write what was coming to me, carefully translating those feelings and insights into words. The process carried on for weeks. I was in a constant state of joyous rapture as God transferred one revelation after another to my knowing. There were daily downloads that rippled into my awareness as the day progressed. The instruction carried on while I slept, and while talking to other people, it didn't stop. Instead of one page, I wrote a full chapter that came directly from God. It became clear this information was deserving of its own book. It was so electric, cheeky even, and nothing at all like the material I had been writing. Who knew that God had such a playful side with humor that included references to modern technology? It went against everything the world told me to expect about God. If I had not let go of those distortions, prejudging God, then I never would have been able to feel this other side of them. I read the notes, the ones inspired by God, hundreds of times to ensure it made sense. The information had a transformative effect on me. As I read the letters, a living energy would alight upon me and help me to understand the words I had written. I was transformed by the words that had come through me. I would never be the same person who started this journey. I was profoundly changed and wanted to share this experience with others. Illuminated, I decided to give God their own book, which is now known as God 2.0, Updated Owner's Manual for Humans. Having completed 2 chapters from God, another distinct voice came through. Clearly a different tone, I recognized it to be the same personality that had guided me through the earlier writing of the Soul Handbook. For the first time, I dared to ask who they were, and they obliged cheerfully with a response. This personality introduced themselves as Chief Angel, otherwise known as Archangel Michael. Apparently, he was the one that had been advising me through life and had prepared me to connect with God. As it turns out, we have a very long history of collaboration. We've attempted through my various incarnations to write a book of wisdom, so I have a lot of practice as an inspirational writer, eternally speaking. But this is the first time we have succeeded in publishing something. Archangel Michael had a lot to say on the subject of God and wanted to contribute to this book, God 2.0. He inspired me through another 3 chapters, more than 60 letters. His contribution revolved around God, the experience of the soul, and there was a lot of information about angels too, God's light force. That topic was new to me. I had never given much thought to angels, which is ironic considering I have such an extensive history of collaborating with an archangel. But in this lifetime, the concept of angels was totally outside my realm of knowledge. That was then, and this is now. These days, I'm a firm believer in the power of angels to transform a person, their life, and their soul. Angels can lead the way back to God for anyone seeking with sincerity. God and Archangel Michael continue to guide me. Mostly this involves removing the endless array of distortions that keep me from knowing God clearly. It's a constant process of moving closer to the absolute truth of what is. The book is an affirmation that they are both willing and able to do the same for you. I am grateful, beyond words, for the collaborative powers that came into my life to bless these pages. I am the conduit, the translator, the producer. God and Archangel Michael are the givers of these insights, essentially the content creators. I am the imperfect human with a giant curiosity for truth, and I share these downloaded secrets with you as part of our mutual journey, one soul to another. I welcome you with love, light, and good cheer. Pauline of Mont Mystic. Excerpted from the book God 2.0, Updated Owner's Manual for Humans.